The near collision between the two Navy ships is just the latest in a growing number of conflicts between the U.S. and China. Democratic Congressman Krishnamoorthi of Illinois is the ranking member of what's been dubbed the House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party. Congressman, great to see you. What do you make of this incident? Is this something that should be of great concern over at the Pentagon? What's your view on this?
Yes, and it's, unfortunately, it stems from two problems. One is process and one is substantive. In terms of process, the Chinese Communist Party has rebuffed nearly a dozen attempts by the Pentagon to have high-level dialogue and talks and communication between us and them to avoid miscalculation. And that only causes the likelihood of more near misses. And then the second is more substantive, and that is the Chinese Communist Party believes that it has sovereignty over not just the Taiwan Strait, but the entire South China Sea. And not only does that go against international law, but the nations of the neighborhood, Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia, of course, Australia, the US, Japan, and others completely disagree. And more than half of the world's shipping goes through that area. And so freedom of navigation is incredibly important, and we're going to continue to do what it takes to ensure freedom of navigation.
And Congressman, just last night, China's defense minister told an international conference that a military conflict between the U.S. and China would be catastrophic. Let's take a listen to that.
It is undeniable that a severe conflict or confrontation between China and the U.S. will be an unbearable disaster for the world. China believes that a major country should behave like one. The world is big enough for countries, including China and the U.S., to grow together.
Congressman, China is saying one thing, but its actions seem to be saying something completely different. What are your thoughts on this?
I agree. I think that for some reason, the CCP believes that not having dialogue and having this very dangerous behavior on the part of its vessels and its aircraft will somehow discourage us from exercising, and as well as our friends and partners, from exercising our freedom of navigation in that part of the world. But actually, in my humble opinion, it does the opposite. It causes others to view the CCP as bullying its neighbors, throwing its elbows, so to speak, at its neighbors. And as a consequence, it's only going to escalate tensions and potential conflict. I think that they should come to the table, meet with folks like Secretary Austin and others, and talk about how do we lower the temperature, lower tensions, and lower the possibility of conflict.
And at that same conference, China turned down a meeting with the U.S. Defense Secretary. Apparently, they did shake hands. Do you think there needs to be more communication between the U.S. and China, or are we just going to continue to see these provocations with very little going on diplomatically?
There absolutely has to be more communication. There has to be more than just a handshake between Secretary Austin and his counterpart. There has to be a dialogue and kind of an explanation of what are our positions and how do we avoid miscalculation. In my humble opinion, I think the CCP needs to understand that any potential conflict will yield unimaginable consequences, not just for the nations of the neighborhood, but for the CCP itself. It's in its own best interest to resume dialogue right now.
And President Biden's national security advisor told CNN today that the president will meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping at some point in an effort to improve relations. What would your advice to President Biden be going into such a meeting?
Well, I far be it for me to give the president advice on this particular topic, but I just have a couple observations. One is we have to do everything we can to safeguard our interests, our rights, and to deter aggression on the part of anybody in the Indo-Pacific region, because we cannot have a Cold War, a hot war, or any kind of open hostilities. The second point is we have to figure out a way to engage peacefully, but with guardrails to make sure that our relationship is a win-win going forward, whether it's economically or otherwise. And we can find constructive ways to engage with the People's Republic of China in dealing with a whole host of other issues. We just got to have that dialogue, meaningful dialogue, to establish what those areas are and how do we work together.
And Taiwan has been a key driver of the heightened tensions between the U.S. and China. It seems like China has become even more aggressive toward Taiwan in recent months. Is the U.S. pushback against this the right strategy, do you think? And the way the U.S. is going about it?
Yes, I think that the Biden administration is doing what is needed to deter aggression against Taiwan. Remember, there's something called the Taiwan Relations Act, which obligates us to help to provide articles of defense for the Taiwanese people to defend themselves from the CCP. All that being said, we still believe in the one China policy, and we believe in the status quo, Jim. We don't want the status quo to change. And that is an essential message that I believe the Biden administration and indeed members of Congress are trying to communicate to the CCP. We believe it's them that they are the ones who are trying to upset or change the status quo by, for instance, claiming the Taiwan Strait or the South China Sea as their territorial waters when, it contradicts international law and understandings and other treaties.
All right, Congressman Krishnamoorthi, thank you so much for your time on this Sunday. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim.